Yo, what's going on, guys? It is non-reality, and in today's video, I'm making a beginner's guide to Succession Zerker PvP. Now, this is going to be a pretty simple video. I'm going to be going over, what skills to use, maybe what buffs to use, some basic combos, and what like your main rotations are going to be. Nothing too in depth, just super simple. Luckily, from the making of this video about 6 hours ago, Choice put out a video that it's 30 minutes long that explains everything that has to do with PvP on Succession Zerker, 1v1s, like small scale, large scale. So I'll be linking that in the description so you guys can go over there and watch his video. After you're done watching this video, you kind of get the basics down. So yeah, let's get into it. First of all, let's talk about like buffs, equipment, and whatnot. First of all, I'd recommend having either a damage reduction artifact with damage reduction lightstones, or maybe an HP artifact with HP lightstones, honestly depending on what you want more. And if you're doing like capped content, that really doesn't matter too much because those are both capped. I just run damage reduction and it works pretty well. Now you're obviously going to be running a neuver. I don't personally have a neuver right now because I am just gearing for PvE mainly, but you are going to want a neuver if you are focusing on PvP, because like the extra stuff that the Kudum gives you don't really need on Zerker, because you just don't need on most classes, mainly just like evasion classes. But yeah, and then let's talk about add-ons real quick. So these are the personal add-ons that I run. A lot of the add-ons for PvP are, I would say, situational based off of how you play the class. The two that I recommend, if not, I'd say three that I recommend that you have. One of them is Ancient Wave. I'd recommend using extra damage to humans and critical hit damage 3%. Some people, instead of running extra damage to humans, will run knockdown damage. If you use this ability only after you get a knockdown, then you can run knockdown instead of human. And the reason we run critical hit is because this is a 100% hit skill on PvP. Now, I'd also recommend for Raging Thunder, extra human damage, and then crit hit rate. And then the last one, I'd recommend on Pred Hunt, I'd recommend getting attack casting speed. The second option is honestly up to you. I like the movement speed reduction just when I'm versing, fast classes so I can get my grabs off. You can also run like bleed or, maybe some DP if you do need it. And I just leave the rest up to you. Maybe you grab yourself some weakling hunt with some plus DP and plus movement speed to get away and get yourself a little bit more armor. But like I said, the rest is up to you depending on how you play the class. Now that we got that out of the way, I'm not really going to go into any like buffs like this because that's honestly just based off of whatever you have at the time. Giant droughts are usually the main thing that people use. You can use perfumes if you want to, but I don't do any of that sweaty, PvP. So I kind of just use whatever I have on hand when I'm, dueling for spot or whatnot. Now, we're going to first go over every single ability that I personally use in PvP and what they exactly do and how you will be using them. So the main skills you're going to be using in PvP. The first one is Absolute Smackdown. This is your grab. This is the grab that you can use off of like a lava piercer. So if you're lava piercer, you can click E and it will grab the target. It is still a bit slow, so you got to make sure that when you use it, you are actually, like going to hit the target. We have Undertaker, which I'll talk about later. That is basically just a follow-up to your E. We have Rock Smash, which is the second grab. The only thing is with this one, it is super slow, so you can only really use it off of a knock to kind of get another CC off. I don't use it too much, honestly, because I just don't find it as useful as just knocking someone and then floating them. Along with that, we have Corpse Storm, which is just another thing that you do in grab, which I will talk about later. We have our Beastly Wind Slash. Now, this is an unprotected ability that looks like that. How I mainly use this ability is if I do get a knock on someone and I need to re-CC them, it does float. So that's what I do use that for. I use it for the float. And it does, obviously apply a bunch of buffs and debuffs based off of, what add-ons you have and also just what it has, minus DP and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. We have a Fierce Strike. Now, Fierce Strike does give you some forward guard, so it is decent to use early on if you're, in a neutral stance and you want to do some damage, and you can potentially get a float off of it if you are lucky. But I usually also use Fierce Strike during my combo while they're also on the ground for a little bit extra damage. Now, let's see. We have this ability. This ability is good for pre-buffing. This is Prime Frenzy Destroyer. Basically, if you hold S and LMB, you do this. But if you hold S and LMB and then click RMB at the end, it does only the last hit. And if you do the last hit, it gives you plus 16 melee AP. So you're going to be using this before you engage a fight. You're going to, hit this, and then you're obviously going to do your combos or whatnot to do a bunch of damage. Another way that you can use Frenzy Destroyer is if you get a knock, you can Frenzy Destroyer into Beastly Windslash, and it will kind of do a flow and hit up with the float, which is pretty nice. And then you'll obviously get the AP buff if you didn't apply it earlier. We have Red Hunt. This is your main neutral ability that you're going to be using because it is a jump. You want to try to hit them with all the jumps you can possibly, and then you want to hold SNF at the end for the big explosion, which does a ton of damage. It's really good for poking down your target when you can't get a grab off. You have the Prime Raging Thunder. This is your big skill. Once you get the knock, you do FD in the float, and you're going to spin and just do as much damage as possible. And when you do this is a quick tip for if you're versing a grab class. When you knock someone and you start spinning, if you notice that you are not going to kill the target and you are still spinning, just make sure you hit left mouse button and then shake off. Because if you keep spinning when they get up, they're just going to instantly grab you if they are good at PvP, because it is super easy to grab a Berserker out of Raging Thunder. We have Fearsome Tyrant. Now, there's two ways to use this ability. There is the non-100%, which looks like this right here, and it does stun, and it gives you super armor, and it does heal you a bit, which is pretty nice. But you're mainly going to be using it during your 100%, to get the fear and a bunch of damage. I mainly use it during like node wars and stuff. If I'm doing like a 1v1, I usually just consume my rage bar so I can get the extra buffs without having to do a long ability. This ability is not used in PvP. This ability is also not really used in PvP as it is unprotected except for forward guard, but you're stationary so they can kind of go behind you. This ability is also not used in PvP. We have the Rabomb that just been added. I don't personally use it. I do see some people use it, if you're like in on someone and maybe you don't get a knock, like if I do this and then like if I'm hitting them but I don't get a knock, you can like Q backwards and hopefully get a knock off of that, or you can just run away. But I personally don't recommend it. It is not a great ability, and it does have a lot of pastime like animations that you can get caught with. Obviously, you have your Prime Beast form, which you're going to be using to buff up if you do need it. Usually, I save this, so this one is what I have on my 2. If I get knocked, I'm about to die, but I know I'm about to get up with a low HP. I'll usually do a shake off, and then I'll do this, and it will heal you to almost full HP. It's really nice. The only issue is when you are actually in this, you can't override this Beast form with a Pred Hunt. So if you go back in and you're at like 1 second, you're going to run out of the Beast form, and you're kind of going to be stuck there until you do an ability that could put you back into Beast form. We have a Prime Ancient Wave. This is used for 2 separate things. One of those is to catch people off guard. So, if you're in a neutral and I'm like jumping around and I don't really get anything from it, I do a bunch of damage and they're like, okay, he just landed and he's probably going to run at me. And instead of running at him, I do like a shake off into that. I can potentially hit him with a knockdown, and then from there you can, grab or do whatever. Another way that you're going to be using Ancient Wave is once you already have them on the knock, you're going to be using them in a combo, which I will talk about when I get into the combo section of the grabs. But yeah, it's just used for a decent amount of damage. We have Devastation. Now, I kind of use this ability as a filler because with the changes to Berserker that they made, last year or so, you can't be an SA with Beastly Windslash or Weakling Hunt. So I use Devastation as a way to fill that gap. So like if I'm versing someone and I'm doing Pred Hunt once it gets up, and then I don't see any openings, maybe I'll hit a shake off, and then I still don't have any openings, maybe I'll hit a Devastation just to reset, go into Lava Piercer, go into second Lava Piercer, just do that basic rotation, which I will also talk about in a minute once we go over all these. This is your main buff. This is like most characters' e-buffs. It's on our C ability though, and it just gives you a bunch of buffs. Usually you use it before you go into a fight. Pretty simple. We have Absolute Weakling Hunt. Now, if you use this ability in Beast form, it does this right here. It is a really good ability because it does decent damage, and it is forward guarded on the first time you use it. So I do use it to get through a target, and it does give a little bit of knockback. But I do use it to get through a target if I see that I'm like kind of stuck on multiple targets or whatnot, and that is how I mainly use that ability. We have Tackling Rock. That's just another movement ability that we're going to be using. I personally don't use Storming Beast. You can use it every once in a while to catch them off guard, but it isn't very protected, as you can see. So it isn't something that is great, but it does give Stiffen. We have Absolute Headbutt. Now I'll talk about this more when we get into the grab combos, but Absolute Headbutt does give you an accuracy buff. So like if I grab someone and I see that I can't fully hit them because I have low accuracy, I will hit them with a strong headbutt and it will refloat them and damage and re-CC them, which is pretty nice. To do a strong headbutt, you just hold Shift-RMB, and W-RMB is the long one, but the short one is Shift-RMB, and it will stop you from moving just in case you miss the target. We have Prime Lava Piercer. This is going to be another neutral ability that you're going to be using to kind of stay in super armor while you're fighting. And also this is the ability that you're going to use off of a grab. So like if I'm doing this, I can grab someone really simple by using a mouse move, which I will also talk about later. And then we have all of the passives. Now, personally, for skill enhancements, I don't really change these too much from PvE to PvP. Like I said, I kind of just PvP whenever I want to, and I don't really care to change them. I use Feral Destroyer or Feral Rage. I see a lot of people use Feral Stampede for PvP, but personally, I just can't be bothered to switch it. I personally use Wailing Beast. So Wailing Beast is a really good ability if you want to heal. It does a lot of healing, and it is super armored the whole time, and then you can shake off after it. It is a pretty nice ability to get away for a second and heal. And then I do not use Frenzied Tyrant at all. You could use Frenzied Winds if you want to, because I know that people do use this in PvP, but I personally, like I said, kind of just can't be bothered to switch it for PvE and PvP. So now that we got all of the abilities out of the way, and I already talked about skill add-ons, we are going to first get into grab combos. Okay, so to start off with grab combos, I'm going to be showing you variations that I would use. I'm not going to be showing you specific combos because this is a really good thing that Berserker has, is we don't need to use specific combos, and a lot of things are situational depending on what classes you're fighting. So like for example, if I am versing a evasion class, I'm going to be using headbutt instead of a float, so I can get that extra accuracy for when I do my main damage. But let's quickly talk about the two types of grabs that you're going to be doing, or I guess three technically. So obviously you have your Rock Smash. Now Rock Smash, like I said before, is not a great grab because you can't use it off of any ability. Like with your E, you can do that off of a Lava Piercer, but with Rock Smash you cannot. You'll have to wait until your Lava Piercer is done, then Rock Smash, and it is unprotected the whole time. And then, like I just mentioned, other than Rock Smash, we do have Absolute Smackdown. I believe that is called. I can never remember the name of this ability. Yes, Absolute Smackdown, which is the main flow grab they're going to be using to catch someone off guard. Now that we have those two out of the way, let me quickly show you the difference in a grab cancel and not. So when you grab someone, if you hold A or D and then LMB, it will quickly drop them. And then from there, you can obviously do, whatever combo you want to do. And that I think is good when you're versing a lot of people, because if you stay in your, if I stay in my grab and, I do RMB and space and all that, they're going to be hitting me a ton trying to get me off of their, ally. So it doesn't work as well in group fights. Mainly for 1v1s, I'd recommend doing the longer, animation for the little bit of extra damage. And you can also do some like CC timer stuff with it. Like I said, that's more complicated, which we are not going to talk about in this video. But like I just showed, this is the other version of the grab that you're going to be doing other than the cancel. You're going to grab them, RMB, and then space right there. And that is the whole grab sequence that you're going to be doing. Now from there, I'm going to tell you two things that you can do. One of them is for versing people with evasion, and one of them is not. If you're doing evasion, you're going to do that whole combo, like I said. Then you're going to do a strong headbutt into devastation, which is down C, but you'll be in beast form, so it'll be faster. And then you're going to spin. This will be a decent amount of damage to kill most people, and it is really easy to do. So wait until my cooldowns are up so I can quickly show you what it looks like when you actually do it. Just waiting for more second. 3, 2, 1. Cool. So you're going to E, RMB, space, and then you're going to strong headbutt into ancient wave into spin. You will do a ton of damage and mostly kill them. If they're evasion class and they're really high evasion, you probably won't fully kill them. And then, like I said, just back out and re-engage with Pred Hunt. And then the other one we are going to be doing is when you are versing a class that isn't evasion and you just want to do as much damage as possible. You're going to be doing E, RMB, space, Frenzy Destroyer into Beastly Windslash and then RMB, and then Raging Thunder. Super simple, also does a bunch of damage. You have to do it a little bit faster because you don't want them to jump out of it. But yeah, it is two really good combos that I think work really well in open world and will 99% of the time kill you. Now, if you notice with that second combo, I didn't use Ancient Wave, because what I personally do is if I grab someone, hit them with the abilities, hit them with this, and then Raging Thunder. If I see that I'm not going to kill them, I'll shake off, and I'll hit them with the Ancient Wave, and that does a ton of damage. And then from there, if I don't kill them, I'll Pred Hunt at them, and they will 99% of the time die because that does a ton of damage. So those are the two grab combos that you're going to be using on Berserker. Now we're going to get into neutral and just poke damage. Okay, now that we're on to neutral and poke damage, what are our main neutral moves that we're going to be using? We're going to be using Pred Hunt. We're going to be using Lava Piercer and the Prime Lava Piercer. We're going to be using Shake Off and Weakling Hunt, and then obviously Devastation to fill the gaps. So for your main neutral like play, what you're trying to do is you're trying to do as much poke damage as possible while also looking for a grab. So if this is my target here, I'm probably going to Lava Piercer, jump in. Oops, my bad. Lava Piercer, jump in, you know, spin around a bunch, and then look for a chance to grab. What I personally like to do, because if you're versing a Berserker, you know they're going to go for a grab. I like doing this and then shaking off and then running away, but then mousing back and trying to grab them to catch them off guard. A lot of Berserkers neutral is trying to catch people off guard with your grab. The one thing that's bad about the grab is if you miss a grab, there is a long animation that they can knock you from. So if you're up on a target and you miss a grab, they're going to instantly CC you. So you got to make sure that when you are getting that grab off, that you're actually going to get it off and you're not going to miss it, because then you're probably going to die. But I'm just basically showing you here how I'd stay in SA the whole time. You know, hit a Devastation, back to Pred Hunt, maybe hit a Shake Off into Lava Piercer again, another Shake Off into Lava Piercer again, you know, another Shake Off, then maybe forward guard, or yeah, forward guard for like a little bit, because forward guard I actually noticed, so I haven't been using it a lot because it does, you know, obviously take some skill to learn, you know, what characters' abilities can get behind you and whatnot. But if you get really good at forward guard, you can kind of forward guard and just move your mouse a bunch, and it works really well for you know, trying not to get CC'd while you're waiting for your abilities on cooldown. So now that we got all of that out of the way, we talked about neutral, we talked about grabs, we talked about combos, we are going to talk about mouse movement. Yes, the dreaded mouse movement. Now, when I first heard about mouse movement, I was like, this is scary. I don't want to, you know, do something that isn't WASD. But once I learned it, I realized how helpful it was, because a lot of the times what happens is when you're fighting a character and you Pred Hunt at them, they're going to try to move out of the way. So you can just use mouse movement and go to them. And it's super simple once you practice it a bit. How I recommend practicing it is, first of all, do your Lava Piercer and just like move your mouse around. It's super simple. That's all you gotta do. Get the hang of how fast you're gonna move and whatnot with your turning. And then start doing Pred Hunts. How I recommend doing it. So what you're gonna be doing is you're gonna be pressing S and F, and then you're gonna be pressing Control and moving around, and then right when you're about to land, you press Control again to get rid of it, and then and then you're gonna hold S and F again before you hit the ground. Like that right there. Just do that a couple times so you can kind of learn the timing. Now, once you get pretty good at that, there's two things you're going to want to do. One of them is do individual, the 3 hops, because like if you're fighting someone and you're in the like the Pred Hunt that isn't this one, you're going to want to try to hit them with all 3 of the hops. So you're going to want to try to, you know, move around, make sure you're really comfortable with Pred Hunt into mouse click, and try to hit them as many times as you can, because Pred Hunt does do a ton of damage. And then from there, what I'd recommend doing is doing the big jump, and then, you know, just do a circle, just to, you know, try to train your muscle memory to click Control every time after SF. Like personally, if I'm farming, I see myself literally SF and then control SF again, even if I don't move my mouse, just to learn how to do it and keep, you know, training my muscle memory. Now, one thing I wanted to point out, just in case anyone have any questions about it, is you see a lot of people, they'll do this. They'll jump and they'll immediately go backwards. And I, for a long time, was like, how do you do that? Because if you have your mouse out here and you try to do it, it doesn't actually work, but it's super simple. If you put your mouse down here and you click it as soon as you jump, oops, it will, you know, send you back to where you started. It's pretty cool to use when, like, if you're next to a target like this and they don't, and then they're expecting you to run away, so, you know, you press lava piercer, but then you jump back immediately and hit them, they're gonna be, you know, shaking up. They're gonna be like, what the heck, like, how did he do that? And then from there you can obviously follow up with abilities. But yeah, that is going to be it, because I think this video is already longer than I wanted it to be. I hope it did help out in you know, the beginner sense of learning what abilities do what and some simple combos. I know starting a new class or starting to PvP on a class can be difficult because you're just wanting to press every button, but Berserker is super simple. It's one of the most simple classes for PvP, at least the succession version. So just take your time and learn what every ability does and how you can combo off of it. Come into the battle arena and train on the dummies, see which abilities, you know, will reach CC cap and whatnot, so you can practice and you can use it in a real fight. And with battle arena, I do recommend coming in here, even if you are a lower gear score, and just trying to fight some people. It is really helpful and it's been helping me a ton. Yeah, if this video did help you guys learn PvP at least a little, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.